Percy Jackson and the Olympians, The Sea of Monsters, Chapter 18, The Party Ponies Invade. One-on-one, I challenged Luke. What are you afraid of? Luke curled his lip. The soldiers who were all about to kill us hesitated, waiting for his order. Before he could say anything, Agrius, the bear man, burst into the deck, leading a flying horse. It was the first pure black Pegasus I'd ever seen, with wings like a giant raven. The Pegasus mare bucked and whinnied. I could understand her thoughts. She was calling Agrius and Luke some names so bad Chiron would have washed her muzzle out with saddle soap. Sir, Agrius called, dodging a Pegasus hoof. Your steed is ready. Luke kept his eyes on me. I told you last summer, Percy, he said, you can't bait me into a fight. And you keep avoiding one, I noticed. Scared your warriors will see you get whipped? Luke glanced at his men and saw I'd trapped him. If he backed down now, he'd look weak. If he fought me, he'd lose valuable time chasing after Clarice. For my part, the best I could hope for was to distract him, giving my friends a chance to escape. If anybody could think of a plan to get them out of here, Annabeth could. On the downside, I knew how good Luke was at sword fighting. I'll kill you quickly, he decided, and he raised his weapon. Backbiter was a foot longer than my own sword. Its blade glinted with an evil gray and gold light where the human steel had been melded with celestial bronze. I could almost feel the blade fighting against itself like two opposing magnets bound together. I didn't know how the blade had been made, but I sensed a tragedy. Someone had died in the process. Luke whistled to one of his men, who threw him a round leather and bronze shield. Luke grinned at me wickedly. Luke, Annabeth said, at least give him a shield. Sorry, Annabeth, he said. You bring your own equipment to this party. The shield was a problem. Fighting two-handed with just a sword gives you more power, but fighting one-handed with a shield gives you better defense and versatility. There were more moves, more options, more ways to kill. I thought back to Chiron. He told me to stay at camp no matter what and learn to fight. Now I was going to pay for not listening to him. Luke lunged at me and almost killed me on the first try. His sword went under my arm, slashing through my shirt and grazing my ribs. I jumped back, then counterattacked with Riptide, but Luke slammed my blade away with his shield. My Percy, Luke chided, you're out of practice. He came at me again with a swipe to the head. I parried, returned with a thrust, and sidestepped easily. The cut on my ribs stung. My heart was racing. Then Luke lunged again, and I jumped backward into the swimming pool and felt a surge of strength. I spun underwater, creating a funnel cloud, and blasted out of the deep end straight at Luke's face. The force of the water knocked him down, spluttering and blinded. But before I could strike, he rolled aside and was on his feet again. I attacked and sliced off the edge of his shield, but that didn't even faze him. He dropped to a crouch and jabbed at my legs, and suddenly my thigh was on fire. With a pain so intense, I collapsed. My jeans were ripped above the knee. I was hurt. I didn't know how badly. Luke hacked downward and rolled behind a deck chair. I tried to stand, but my leg wouldn't take the weight. Percy! Grover bleated. I rolled again at Luke's sword as Luke's sword slashed the deck chair in half, metal, pipes, and all. I clawed toward the swimming pool, trying hard not to black out. I'd never make it. Luke knew it too. He advanced slowly, smiling. The edge of his sword was tinged with red. One thing you want to watch before you die, Percy. One thing I want you to watch before you die, Percy. He looked at the bear man, Aureus, who was still holding Annabeth and Grover by the necks. You can eat your dinner now, Aureus. Bon appetit. The bear man lifted his hands and bared his teeth. That's when all Hades broke loose. Whoosh! A red feathered arrow sprouted from Aureus's mouth. With a surprised look on his fairy face, he crumpled to the deck. Brother! Argus wailed. He let the Pegasus reins go slack just long enough for the black steed to kick him in the head and fly away, free over Miami Bay. For a split second, Luke's guards were too stunned to do anything except watch the Bear twins' bodies dissolve into smoke. There was a wild chorus of war cries and hooves thundering against metal. A dozen centaurs charged out of the main stairwell. Ponies! Tyson cried with delight. My mind had trouble processing everything I saw. Chiron was among the crowd, but his relatives were almost nothing like him. There were centaurs with black Arabian stallion bodies, others with golden palomino coats, others with orange and white spots like paint horses. Some wore brightly colored t-shirts with day-glow letters that said Party Ponies, South Florida chapter. Some were armed with bows, some with baseball bats, some with paintball guns. One had his face painted like a Comanche warrior and was waving a large orange styrofoam hand, making a big number one. Another was bare-chested and painted entirely green. A third had googly eye glasses with eyeballs bouncing around on slinky coils, and one of those baseball caps with soda cans and straw attachments on either side. They exploded onto the deck with such ferocity and color that that for a moment even Luke was stunned. I couldn't tell whether they had come to celebrate or to attack. Apparently both. As Luke was raising his sword to rally his troops, a centaur shot a custom-made arrow with leather boxing glove on the end. It smacked Luke in the face and sent him crashing into the swimming pool. His warriors scattered. I couldn't blame them. Facing the hooves of a rearing stallion is scary enough, but when it's a centaur armed with a bow, whooping it up in a soda drinking hat, even the bravest warrior would retreat. Come get some, wailed one of the party ponies. They let loose with their paintball guns. A wave of blue and yellow exploded against Luke's warriors, blinding them and splattering them from head to toe. They tried to run, only to slip and fall. Chiron galloped toward Annabeth and Grover, neatly plucking them off the deck and deposited them on his back. I tried to get up, but my wounded leg still felt like it was on fire. Luke was crawling out of the pool. Attack, you fools, he muttered to his troops. Somewhere down below deck, a large alarm bell thrummed. I knew any second we would be swamped by Luke's reinforcements. Already his warriors were getting over their surprise, coming at the centaurs with swords and spears drawn. Tyson slapped half a dozen of them aside, knocking them over the great guardrail into Miami Bay. But more warriors were coming up the stairs. Withdraw, brethren, Chiron said. You won't get away with this, horseman, Luke shouted. He raised his sword, but got smacked in the face with another boxing glove arrow and sat down hard on the deck in a deck chair. A Palomino centaur hoisted me onto his back. Dude, get your big friend. Tyson, I yelled, come on. Tyson dropped the two warriors he was about to tie into a knot and jogged after us. He jumped on the centaur's back. Dude! The centaur moaned, almost buckling under Tyson's weight. Do the words low-carb diet mean anything to you? Luke's warriors were organizing themselves into a phalanx, but by the time they were ready to advance, the centaurs had galloped to the edge of the deck and fearlessly jumped the guardrail, as if they were a steeplechase, not 10 stories above the ground. I was sure we were going to die. We plummeted toward the docks, but the centaurs hit the asphalt with hardly a jolt and galloped off, swooshing and yelling taunts at the Princess Andromeda as we raced into the streets of downtown Miami. I have no idea what the Miamians thought as we were galloped by. Streets and buildings began to blur as the centaurs picked up speed. I felt as if space were compacting, as if the centaur step took us miles and miles. In no time, we had left the city behind. We raced through marshy fields of high grass and ponds of stunted trees. Finally, we found ourselves in a trailer park at the edge of a lake. The trailers were all horse trailers, tricked out with televisions and mini refrigerators and mosquito netting. We were in a centaur camp. Dude, the party pony said the party pony as he unloaded his gear. Did you see that bear guy? He was like, whoa, I have an arrow in my mouth. The centaur with the googly eyes glasses laughed. That's awesome. Head slam. The two centaurs charged at each other full force and knocked heads. They went staggering off in different directions with crazy grins on their faces. Chiron sighed. He set Adam, Beth, and Grover down on a picnic blanket next to me. I really wish my cousins wouldn't slam their heads together. They don't have the brain cells to spare. Chiron, I said, still stunned by the fact that he was here. You saved us. He gave me a dry smile. Well, now, I couldn't very well let you die, especially since you have cleared my name. But how did you know we were where we were? Annabeth asked. Advanced planning, my dear. I figured you would wash up near Miami if you made it out of the Sea of Monsters alive. Almost everything washes up near Miami. Gee, thanks, Grover mumbled. No, Chiron said. I didn't mean. Oh, never mind. I'm glad to see you, my young centaur. The point is, I was able to eavesdrop on Percy's Iris message and trace the signal. Iris and I have been friends for centuries. I asked her to alert me to any important communications in this area. It then took no effort to convince my cousins to ride to your aid. As you see, centaurs can travel quite fast when we wish to. Distance for us is not the same as distance for humans. I looked over at the campfire where three party ponies were teaching Tyson to operate a paintball gun. I hope they knew what they were getting into. So, what now? I asked Chiron. We just let Luke sail away? He's got Kronos aboard that ship, or parts of him anyway. Chiron knelt, looking carefully folding his front legs underneath him. He opened his medicine pouch on his belt and started to treat my wounds. I'm afraid, Percy, that today has been something of a draw. He didn't have the strength of numbers. We didn't have the strength of numbers to take that ship. Luke was not organized enough to pursue us. Nobody won. But we got the fleece, Annabeth said. Clarice is on her way back to camp with it right now. Chiron nodded, though he still looked uneasy. You are all true heroes. And as soon as we get Percy fixed up, we must return to Half-Blood Hill. The centaurs shall carry you. You're coming too, I asked. Oh yes, Percy. I will be relieved to get home. My brethren here simply do not appreciate Dean Martin music. Besides, I must have some words with Mr. D. There's the rest of the summer to plan. We so much training to do. And I want to see, I'm curious about the fleece. I didn't know what exactly he meant, but it made me worried about what Luke had said. I was going to let you take the fleece once I was done with it. Had he just been lying? I learned with Kronos, there was usually a plan within a plan. The Titan Lord wasn't called the Crooked One for nothing. He had ways of getting people to do what he wanted without them ever realizing his true intentions. Over by the campfire, Tyson let loose with his paintball gun. A blue projectile splattered against one of the centaurs, hurling him backward into the lake. The centaur came up grinning, covered in swamp muck and blue paint, and Tyson gave Tyson two thumbs up. Annabeth, Chiron said, perhaps you and Grover could go supervise Tyson and my cousins before they teach each other too many bad habits. Annabeth met his eyes. Some kind of understanding passed between them. Sure, Chiron, Annabeth said. Come on, go boy. But I don't like paintball. Yes, you do. She hoisted Grover to his hooves and led him off toward the campfire. Chiron finished bandaging my leg. Percy, I had a talk with Annabeth on the way here, a talk about the prophecy. Uh-oh, I thought. It wasn't her fault, I said. I made her tell me. His eyes flickered with irritation. I was sure he was going to chew me out, but then his look turned to weariness. I suppose I could not expect to keep it secret forever. So I am the one in the prophecy? Chiron tucked his bandages back into his pouch. I wish I knew, Percy. You're not yet 16. For now, we must simply train you as best as we can and leave the future to the fates. The fates. I had thought about those old ladies, I hadn't thought about those ladies and old ladies in a long time. But as soon as Chiron mentioned them, something clicked. That's what I meant, I said. Chiron frowned. That's what meant? Last summer, the omen from the fates, when I saw them snip somebody's life string, I thought it meant I was going to die right away. But it's worse than that. It's got something to do with your prophecy. The death they foretold, it's going to happen when I'm 16. Chiron's tail whisked nervously in the grass. My boy, you can't be sure of that. We don't even know if the prophecy is about you. But there isn't any other half-blood child of the big three that we know of. And Kronos is rising. He's going to destroy Mount Olympus. He will try, Chiron agreed, and Western civilization along with it. But if we don't stop him, but we will stop him. You will not be alone in that fight. I knew he was trying to make me feel better, but I remembered what Annabeth had told me. It would come down to one hero, one decision that could save or destroy the West. And I felt sure that the fates had been giving me some kind of warning about that. Something terrible was going to happen, either to me or to somebody I was close to. I'm just a kid, Chiron, I said miserably. What good is one lousy hero against something like Kronos? Chiron managed a smile. What good is one lousy hero? Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain was something like that to me once, just before he single-handedly changed the course of your civil war. He pulled an arrow from his quiver and turned the razor-sharp tip so it glinted in the firelight. Celestial bronze, Percy, an immortal weapon. What would happen if you shot this at a human? Nothing, I said. It would pass right through. That's right. Humans don't exist on the same level as immortals. They can't even be hurt by our weapons. But you, Percy, you are part God, part human. You live in both worlds. You can be harmed by both, and you can affect both. That's what makes heroes so special. You carry the hopes of humanity into the realm of the eternal. Monsters never die. They are reborn from the chaos and barbarianism that is always bubbling underneath civilization, the very stuff that makes Kronos stronger. They must be defeated again and again, kept at bay. Heroes embody that struggle. You fight the battles humanity must win every generation in order to stay human. Do you understand? I don't know. You must try, Percy. Because whether or not you are the child of the prophecy, Kronos thinks you might be. And after today, he will finally despair of turning you to his side. That is the only reason he hasn't killed you yet. You know, as soon as he's sure he can't use you, he will destroy you. You talk like you know him. Chiron pursed his lips. I do know him. I stared at him, sometimes forgot just how old Chiron was. Is that why Mr. D blamed you when the tree was poisoned? Why you said some people don't trust you? Indeed. But Chiron, I mean, come on. Why would you think you'd ever betray they'd ever why would they think you'd ever betray the camp for Kronos? Chiron's eyes were deep brown, full of thousands of years of sadness. Percy, remember your training. Remember your study of mythology? What is my connection to the Titan Lord? I tried to think, but I'd always gotten my mythology mixed up, even now when it was so real, so important to my own life. I had trouble keeping all the names and facts straight. I shook my head. You owe Kronos a favor or something? He spared your life? Percy, Chiron said, his voice impossibly soft. The Titan Lord Kronos is my father.